All right, it being 6:02 p.m, we'll get the ordinary council meeting of the 29th of June underway. We wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we are meeting on, the Wadandi people. We wish to acknowledge and respect their continuing connection to the land, waters and community. We pay our respects to all members of the Aboriginal communities and their culture, and to elders past and present, their descendants who are with us today, and those who will follow in their footsteps. Record of attendance. We've got 7 councillors in attendance tonight. Councillor McCleary is on a previously approved leave of absence, and Councillor Andrew is an apology for this evening. Councillor Clues did have a leave of absence for this evening, but has joined us. There are no responses to previous public questions taken on notice. We'll now move to public question time. First question is from a Bronwyn Mutton of Capel.
Thank you, Mr. CEO and Mr. President, and to councillors as well. So my name is Bronwyn Mutton from Mangles Road, Stirling Estate, Capel. My question's to do with the extractive industry application for Lot 287 Southwest Highway, Gwindanup. Many members of the community have raised major concerns about this EIL project. For example, Michael Tichbon has watched EIL applications to Shire of Capel for 40 years and says this is the most concerning ever to come before council. At the March-April Shire of Capel council meeting, this project was considered so sensitive that discussions and decisions were postponed until June meeting tonight to give more time for in-depth consideration of implications of this project application. At the May Council meeting, I spoke that with such a major project, it behoves Shire of Capel staff and councillors to personally visit this site to better understand complexities before making a decision, not to stay inside council chambers making decisions without visiting the project area. Question 1. Which councillors have now visited this site before making decisions on this project?
Thank you, Mrs. Mutton, for the question. As mentioned at the May Ordinary Council meeting, a formal site visit occurred on the 30th of March 2022, attended by Councillor Tarantroy, the Chief Executive Officer, the Manager of Planning Services, and an engineering technical officer. Other councillors such as Councillor Noonan, Councillor Clues and myself have visited the surrounding public reserves to view this site. A further opportunity for councillors to visit the site will be provided before the item returns to council.
Thank you very much, that's good news. So question 2 was, if councillors are advised of a major importance of a project, why is it not mandatory for councillors to visit the site of a controversy before making important decisions on such a project?
Currently, site visits for any development before the council is on request or requested by the developer basis. However, following feedback internally, we are making some changes from August 2022 to have a fortnight leading up to the ordinary council meeting. One of these changes will include that a dedicated site visit day will be included should the desire to visit proposed projects be required.
Another good news answer, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Mutton. Okay, I've received 11 questions from Mr. Southwell of Jalora, who unfortunately isn't with us tonight. However, I will read out his questions and provide the answers, and they will also be subsequently provided in the minutes. Question 1, are you aware, and if so, do you acknowledge that the Shire CEO is simply an employee and servant of this elected council and has such no power whatsoever to direct or cause the council or councillors to do anything, including holding any meeting? The response is the CEO is an employee of the council and is responsible for the functions outlined in section 5.41 of the Local Government Act 1995. Including section 5.41E, liaise with the mayor or president of the local government's affairs and the performance of the local government's functions, and section 5.41I, perform any other functions specified or delegated by the local government or imposed under any act or other written law as a function performed by the CEO. Question 2. Did you give notice as specified in section 5.4 of the Local Government Act to the CEO to announce and arrange a special council meeting of the 15th of June, which was subsequently cancelled, and then give the CEO another notice to announce and arrange a special council meeting which took place on June 20th? The answer to both those questions is yes and yes. Question 3. Do you concede there is no written record of these notices which has been given, and is it your position that there is of no consequence because you claim there is no legislative requirement for such a notice to be given in writing? The answer to that question is I reaffirm that the notice provided is in accordance with section 5.4 of the Local Government Act. Question 4. Are you aware that all special council meetings of council which took place during your predecessor's time as President were caused by written notice and signed and given by the President to the CEO or acting CEO, and is it your position that such written notices were needless and they were superfluous to the requirement of the Act? The response to that is the Local Government Act section 5.4 requires notice to be given to the CEO setting out the date and purpose of the proposed meeting. This section does not state written notice. As the Local Government Act requires in some instances, for example, declaration of members' interests in matters to be discussed at a meeting, as be disclosed under section 5.651A. The provision of a written notice setting out the date and purpose of a proposed meeting is a traditional practice, as outlined in the Department of Local Government, Sport and Culture's operational guideline, a guide to the preparation of agenda and minutes. Notice of the special council meeting, including the date and purpose, was provided, as previously affirmed in my answer to question 3. Question 5. Was the date, time and place that you gave verbal notice to the CEO to call a special council meeting to be held on the 15th of June? And what was the date, time and place you gave verbal advice to the CEO to cancel this meeting and call another special meeting on the 20th of June? The response is discussion on the upcoming schedule of briefings, workshops and meeting, including the special council meeting planned for the original date of Wednesday the 15th of June 2022, relating to the annual budget and rating development and adoption, was held on the 14th of April 2022 at the Shire offices. Initially, verbal notice was given during this meeting. The resultant schedule that was approved by myself for this first time of many was emailed to all councillors on the 19th of April 2022. The special council meeting appearing in the schedule and all other communications from that point on. Several telephone discussions occurred between myself and the acting CEO and CEO across the weekend of the 11th and 12th of June. Given the time taken to finalise the draft 2022-23 annual budget and rating strategy report, the decision was made at this time and notification given to reschedule the special council meeting. The public notice of the rescheduled special council meeting was advertised on Monday the 13th of June 2022. Question 6. During both conversations, do you specify on what date, time and place the meeting should have been held and their purpose? The response to that question is yes. Question 7. Do you accept the word notice as used in the relevant section of the Act ordinarily means a document that has been written down and hence can be kept as a record and shown to others so that there can be no dispute of what has transpired? The response is no. Please see my response to question 4. Question 8. Do you believe this recent practice, which appears to have arisen since you were elected President, of following such a notice to be given verbally meets the Shire's stated value of accountability? The response is yes. This is the only instance during my tenure a special council meeting has been held. In terms of accountability, there are records of various nature, email and internal meeting notes that have been kept as a record. Further to this point, while the Shire of Capel will always act in its own best interests, it is worth noting that other local governments, including a close regional neighbour, follows this same practice. I have also since discussed the matter with the West Australian Local Government Association, who confirmed that electronic and verbal direction are common practices amongst local government across the state and are compliant. Question 9. Has any legal advice been sought to confirm your interpretation of section 5.4, given the importance of ensuring that this special council meeting has been properly called and held, and therefore decisions made at the meeting are legally valid and binding? If so, can this advice be released? The response is no legal advice has been sought. Please see the response to my questions. Please see the response to the questions 4 and 8. Question 10. If legal advice has not been attained, is your view based on or been confirmed by advice you have received from the CEO? The response is my understanding is based on the requirements of the Act and regulations. And yes, a specific role of the CEO is to provision of advice to the council in relation to its functions of the local government under the Local Government Act and other written laws under section 5.41A. Also, as mentioned in my response to question 8, I have spoken to neighbouring local governments and Walga. Question 11. Do you accept that in this case the CEO may have a conflict of interest in providing such advice, given that if his advice is wrong, he appears to have acted without proper authority, and consequently the special council meeting of the 20th of June is ultra vires and his decisions are therefore invalid? The response to that question is no. The circumstances you described do not meet any definition of an interest that requires a declaration under the Local Government Act. And no, the requirements of the Act have been met in the calling, conduct and decisions made at the special council meeting, and they remain valid. They were all the questions that were received on notice. Are there any questions from the floor? Mr. Mike Norton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike Norton, Chairman of Vasson of WA Farmers and a beef producer out on Cloverdale Road. I appreciate, Mr. Chairman, you may be covering this question in a later statement, but I think the question needs to be on the public record anyhow. And that is, as we all know, the lease of the Boyne Up Sale Yards will be concluded on the current lease on the 1st of July, which is only a couple of days away. And I guess the question all the beef producers are wanting to know, how have you proceeded with Walser in relation to a new lease agreement? And will the new lease agreement be fit for purpose, bearing in mind that agriculture's certainly in the crosshairs on animal welfare, on biosecurity and health and safety? So these are fairly important things, and all that of course revolves around the Boyne Up Sale Yards. And I appreciate, Mr. Chairman, you will make a statement later on, and these questions may well be covered then. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Norton, for the questions. The lease negotiations have been largely conducted through the CEO and relevant staff. Finalising of these plans has taken slightly longer than the current lease term has allowed, and the Shire and Walser are intending to sign a lease to enter into a holdover period from the 1st of July to the 1st of September 2022, which ensures that the operations of the yards can continue while the final new lease negotiations are finalised. To further expand on that question, I'll hand over to the CEO, who's been directly involved in those negotiations.
Through you, Shire President, just to add to that, there's one important, so negotiations with Walser in relation to the capital upgrade plan and the operational management plans are nearing completion. There's one, and that's included referral to both of the key agencies, Department of Primary Industry and Primary Industry Regulation and Regional Development, and Department of Water and Air, DWA. There's one important matter that still needs to be concluded, which is why, as the Shire President mentioned, we will be operating under the holding over clause of the existing lease to allow business continuity. As soon as the capital upgrade plan and the operational plans meet the satisfaction of the referral agencies and the Shire, consistent with the decision that the Shire made, the new lease will be signed. We expect that would be a matter of a week or two. It will not have any impact on the operation of the sale yards in the meantime. What you will see, and what the community will see at the conclusion of that, on signing of the new lease, will be a significant upgrade of the infrastructure at the Boyne Up Sale Yards, addressing the key areas of concern around animal welfare, particularly focused on shade and flooring and drainage and the pen numbers, stock handling. You will also see a significant change in the operational approach to the conduct of the sale yards. to make sure that the new 10-year lease that will be executed between Walser and the Shire provides for a significantly upgraded facility and contemporary operating practices.
Thank you. Are there any further questions from the floor? That concludes public question time. We'll move on to applications for a leave of absence. Are there any applications? Nope. Item 6, declarations of interest. I've received no declarations. There are no notice of items to be discussed behind closed doors, so we'll move to the confirmation of the minutes of the Ordinary Council meeting of the 25th of May. Is there a mover for those minutes? Councillor Mogg. Seconder, the Deputy President. Any discussion on those minutes? I'll put them ones to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimous. Item 9, announcements by the presiding person without discussion. I have a few announcements tonight. First announcements regarding the Jalora Bushfire Brigade Team Award. It is my pleasure to share with you that the Jalora Bushfire Brigade are finalists in this year's West Australian Fire and Emergency Services Firefighting Team Award that acknowledges a volunteer brigade, team or task force who together have made a real difference in their community over the past 12 months. The Jalora Bushfire Brigade was nominated for their community engagement approach, including assisting elderly residents in hazard reduction around their properties, providing an active Facebook page providing community preparedness information, holding multi-agency bushfire awareness and emergency information sessions, developing local preparedness campaigns including a Brigade YouTube clip, which is still stuck in my head, supporting deployments and campaign fires across the state, and of course helping Santa in his annual lolly run because the roads are a bit too hot for the reindeers. The other finalists include the Broome Volunteer Fire and Rescue Service and the Wagen Fire and Rescue Service. So it is fantastic to have a local bushfire brigade as part of those finalists. The information on the nominees is available on the DFES website, with the award winners to be announced at the WA Fire and Emergency Services Awards Gala Dinner on the 10th of September 2022. The Shire of Capel congratulate the Jalora Bushfire Brigade on this fantastic achievement. Well done. (2021) Census Data. Yesterday, the data from the 2021 National Census was released, and I'd like to share the following with you. The Shire population has grown to 18,175 people, up 6.14% from 17,123 in 2016. Our youth still form a large part of our population, some 35%. Interestingly, 10 to 14-year-olds make up 10% of our total population. I'm sure the skate park in Jalora will be well used once construction is complete. Our age profile between 5 to 19 years old is higher than both the state and national averages. We really are offering a lifestyle of choice when you look at the Shire's residents' country of birth statistics. Our Zimbabwe and South African-born residents are growing rapidly, representing a high percentage of our population when compared to the rest of the state and Australia. Our community also volunteers more on average when compared to the rest of the state and the nation. This is just a snapshot. Anyone interested in seeing the full information available on Capel is encouraged to visit the ABS website. The Town Hall Workshop Series. Throughout May and June, the Shire conducted 4 successful Town Hall workshops that first looked at the current and future needs of our community based on our 10-year strategic community plan and the Shire's role in achieving those outcomes. The second series of workshops focused significantly on the Shire's future sustainability and draft 2022-23 annual budget and rating strategy. The workshops were attended by over 50 enthusiastic community members, some at multiple sessions, who provided a range of constructive comments, feedback and information. Our social media messages about the workshops reached over 5,000 accounts. I would also like to thank the councillors who attended and supported the workshops, as well as the staff who facilitated it. The Town Hall workshops were another excellent example of the Shire's commitment to engage more actively with our community and to be available to listen and act. This commitment will continue, and I encourage all members of the community to take this opportunity at a future date. And finally, just an update on the Boyne Up sale yards. Negotiations are nearing completion on the new 10-year lease between the Shire and the WA Livestock Association over the Boyne Up sale yards. The new lease will see a significant capital and operational improvement at the sale yard focused on animal welfare, stock handling, workplace health and safety, biosecurity, environmental management, facility management, and auditing and reporting. WALSA have submitted a draft capital upgrade plan accompanied by a comprehensive series of operational management plans that are being assessed by the Shire and referral to DPERD and DWER. The intention is for this significant infrastructure elements such as shade and flooring to be installed throughout the coming summer in the 2022-23 financial year. Getting the capital upgrade plan and operational management plans 100% correct is absolutely essential in providing a high standard of sale yard facility for the local industry, contemporary operational practices, and to ensure continuing legislative compliance throughout the term of the new lease. Finalising these plans has taken slightly longer than the current lease term has allowed, with the Shire and WALSA signing an agreement to lease from the 1st of July to the 1st of September 2022, which ensures the industry and business continuity and allows for all plans to be finalised before the new lease is signed. That's from me. Okay, we now move on to petitions, deputation and presentations. We have none this evening. There are no motions of which previous notice has been given, and there are no questions of which previous notice has been given. We now move into section 13, Chief Executive Officer reports. Item 13.1, Committees of Council minutes. There is a recommendation there. Is there a mover for those? Councillor Mogg. Is there a seconder? Councillor Tarantroy. Councillor Mogg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Accept the motion as read, and thank you for the continuing efforts from our CEO, and concur I was at each mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Tarantroy. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Clues.
Thank you. Just a question for you, if I may. Will these again come back to council once they are confirmed?
These are just confirming the minutes, so...
Yeah, but I understand that. But when these meetings are confirmed by the committees, will they then come back to council for us to once again note and reaffirm?
No, I don't believe so.
Thank you.
Sorry, am I understanding your question correctly?
So we are being asked here to note unconfirmed minutes. My question is, when the meetings become confirmed and the minutes become confirmed by the committees, will they then come back to council again for us to accept or receive or note at that time?
Sure. I believe the intention is just so council is aware of the discussions and decisions being made at the committees. Probably to expand further on that, Mr. CEO, did you have anything as to the reason?
Through you, Shire President. As explained in the report, the main reason why we didn't wait until the minutes were confirmed, obviously because of the time delay, given that these committees meet quarterly, and it was it's effectively up to council. If councillors would like to see the confirmed minutes come back to council, we can do that, noting the fact that theoretically, in 99% of the time, they'll be exactly the same as what they've already considered. But if that is something that councillors want, we can do that, or we can stick with the practice. I'd take guidance from council.
Wish to speak, councillor?
Thank you, yes. Yep. So as I suspected then, I think we will have these come back to council again once they are confirmed. That being the case, I would rather not see these come to us to be noted. At any time, any of us as councillors can ask to be forwarded this information. Any of us are welcome to come along to any of these committee meetings This just seems like some unnecessarily double handling that we certainly don't need to be wasting meeting time with, I don't think.
Thank you. Any other councillors? Councillor Dillon?
Thank you, Mr. President. Look, I don't mind. I understand where Councillor Clues is coming from. However, I don't mind that these are sort of put on the public record. There's a lot of work that the councillors do behind closed doors with our various committees, namely these two, Economic Development Advisory Committee and the Climate Change, Adaptation and Sustainability Committee. There's a lot of work goes into these committees that quite often doesn't get recognised and doesn't get back to the public sphere. So I don't mind that these are being put forward, albeit, as Councillor Clues said, maybe before being approved by that committee. I don't think it's a bad thing to necessarily put it on the public record so people can see the hard work that's being done behind the scenes by our various councillors and staff. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Question, Councillor Clues?
Question, please. Thank you, Chair. Through you. Are unconfirmed minutes of committee meetings not already on the public record on the website, just like unconfirmed council meeting minutes?
Yes. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Terrantroy?
I'd just like to confirm that I was at the meeting and I've read the minutes, and they, to me, they're a reflection of what I remembered occurring at the meeting. Yeah, thank you.
Any other speakers? Councillor Noonan?
Thank you, Mr. President. I also initially was of the mind that it's good to see the minutes here. Unconfirmed, in that it brings to the fore and brings to the council's attention that these meetings occurred and this is what we believe happened. But I can also understand the concern that Councillor Clues has, in that if there is an error in the minutes, that even those of us who were there didn't pick up as we went through the agenda and went through things. And if there are things that should be corrected or adjusted, then it does become a little bit untidy if we have seen them here or they've been put out to the public only to be corrected again. So I appreciate Councillor Clues's concern here, and I think that it might be better practice to not see or to not note these minutes. Yeah, to do it once with the once the committees themselves have had the chance to confirm the meetings. And I also appreciate the point, and a very valid point that the CEO makes, that it's a long time since these meetings happened. Yeah. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any other speakers? Look, I suppose I'll just say, look, I don't really have a problem with noting them, but I understand the feedback being received, so that's something we can certainly have a discussion about going forward, about how we want to see these minutes coming to the council. I suppose I would say when I was first elected in 2017, it was a general sort of practice that the minutes would come. Not really sure when that stopped or started again. So yeah, we can have a discussion offline about how we'd like to see these come to us, if at all. But yeah, all right. Any other speakers? Councillor Mogg, would you like to close? I'll put that one to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? That's carried 6-1. We now move on to section 14, infrastructure and development reports. Item 14.1, the tender 2206, construction of the Peppermint Grove Beach bus turnaround. Is there a mover? The Deputy President. Seconder. Councillor Mogg. The Deputy President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Look, I just wanted to give my support for the project. I mean, we're all familiar with Peppermint Grove, and yes, there are a number of students commuting from Peppermint Grove to Capel and various other places, and it's vitally important that we provide safe infrastructure for the bus turnaround. And I mean, as the community continues to grow, it will only be used more and more. I had a conversation with the director today just to clarify the fact that this is fully funded as well by the grant scheme, which is important. And I mean, looking at the annual budget as well, making a contribution noting in the draft annual budget the installation of the shelter and some additional landscaping work. I mean, this was a priority from the Shire for the grant scheme. It's great to see it come back. So very happy to see what we've had in front of us, and look forward to it.
Councillor Mogg.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to say I follow on from Councillor Sciano's sentiments, comments, and also look forward to this coming to fruition. And to me, it is a big safety design issue and important for that community and future. Thank you.
Is there anyone to speak against the motion? Speakers for? Speakers? The Deputy President, like to close?
No, I'm good.
Well, I'll put that one to the vote. Those in favour? And that's carried unanimous. We now move to item 14.2, Tender 2202, the reconstruction and widening of Payne Street, Boynup. There's an officer's recommendation there. Is there a mover for that one? Councillor Dillon. Is there a seconder? Councillor Noonan. Councillor Dillon.
Thank you, Mr. President. It was a source of a bit of mirth on our Monday agenda briefing. Excuse me. This has been a long time coming for the residents of that part of our beautiful Shire. Payne Road's been screaming out for an upgrade for quite some time. I believe with previous decisions we've put it back. It's time to move forward. It's not an inexpensive project, but I'm sure the local residents of Payne Street will be very, very glad to see it happen. So I heartily put this to my fellow councillors to support the motion.
Councillor Noonan.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I concur with Councillor Dillon. It is a very important piece of infrastructure. It's an important road, not just for the residents who live along it, but for all of the residents in Boynup and for people from the rural communities around Boynup who use that road on a daily basis. And the road is in very poor condition, so this upgrade is definitely needed, and it's very pleasing to see it come to council. So I'd encourage people to support that.
Thank you. Are there any speakers against the motion? Speakers for? Councillor Tarantroy.
Yes, I agree. This road is well overdue for upgrade. It'll increase the safety for all road users along this route by creating a smoother surface. It has increased clearance between opposing traffic, so more safer for lots of traffic. Also, it reduces the potential for truck trailers swaying into the unsealed shoulders. Payne Street is a social corridor, and approximately 136 cars per day connecting Railway Road and the residential area to the northwest of Boynup. So this will make a huge impact on the people who use that road, and also for our visitors as well. It's also got positive economic implications for businesses in the Shire through a local procurement of goods and services and improvised transport efficiencies. So I urge all councillors to vote for this proposal. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers? The Deputy President.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not going to speak against this. We all understand and acknowledge the fact that work needs to be done on Payne Street. I just want to make comment just around the approval of additional funds. We're going to see, I think, a lot of this. Projects that have been in the programs of works for a number of years. I think this will be the new norm with the current cost of resources and everything we need, and the delays with COVID and workforce impacts. What I just want to say and sort of bring to the agenda is that I think we're going to have to, this particular project, the estimates of work were done in 2018, and I think it sort of highlights that perhaps when we are looking at the programs of works each year, I think in the future, and particularly with the way that prices are soaring for resources and these sort of works programs, we're going to need to redo some of our estimates because this is just going to be a common occurrence from now on. And it's not a reason not to support it. This is a vital piece of infrastructure, or vital piece of work that needs to be done. But I definitely want to put that at the front of mind. I think that's definitely a priority for me now. We're going to have to start to look at all these programs of work as they come through every year, and maybe have a bit of a system. You know, has it been more than 3 years since it was estimated? Do we need to do another estimation, and start to actually move projects around and update our program of works each year based off some of the estimations of projects. I just wanted to add that bit. As I said, this is a vital piece of work that needs to be done for Payne Street, so fully support it. But we've only really got $500 to give in a draft budget, so we're definitely making that $500 go far. Or 580 odd bucks, a bit closer to 600. Maybe tip in $20 and we'll see if we get there.
Councillor Clues?
Thank you. Can I move an amendment?
Yes.
Can I add a point 3? That prior to the Shire signing the tender, the council receive a report detailing the options and outcomes of not widening and only reconstructing.
We'll just wait for that one to get up on the board, Councillor, and then you can see if you're happy with that wording.
Yeah. Sorry, just and only reconstructing. Unless you can word that better than I just did, I'm sure you can. Sorry.
Just a bit of clarification for an administrative perspective. In terms of the report coming to council, do you mean as in a ordinary council meeting, or okay? Yep.
Yes, I did, but I didn't want to put a date in because I obviously have to leave that up to staff to provide to council at their pleasure.
It might just be best to just place in your amendment there somewhere that it's coming to an ordinary council meeting.
Sure. Perhaps if the report be brought to an appropriate
Yep.
ordinary
We'll
council
come
meeting.
to the, yep. Are you happy with that wording? All right, is there a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Noonan? Councillor Clues?
Thank you. Yeah, so I understand in the report there's some mention of the status of that road, meaning that it's required to be widened. The status of the road, I think, is something that's probably flexible quite simply. I am a little bit concerned if we replace and upgrade and widen that road, it will become a much more heavily trafficked road. I'm a little bit concerned that we'll see trucks cutting the corner off to get to Railway Road, and perhaps even as the central and northern sections of the Bores is through, you may find all truck transport deciding that the best path to get to Bustle Highway becomes through Boyanup instead of going through Bunbury, and that would be the path. They would use what we've already done on Boyanup West Road to link up to this road. That's quite concerning, and I don't think the residents of that area want that or deserve that. I absolutely want to see the road reconstructed. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a road bitumised in worse condition in the Shire than that one. It's terrible and needs to be done. I'm just concerned how far we go with it. If we make it too usable, we may be sorry later on. So I'd just like to have a better look at what our options are. Can we, of course, rebuild the road, but make it more localised? If that takes putting some speed whoops in or something to downgrade the road from a thoroughfare to a local traffic only type road, that might be of more benefit to the residents of the area.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Noonan?
Yeah, nothing to add. Thanks, Mr. President.
Are there any speakers against the amendment? Councillor Tarantroy?
Yes, I'm speaking against the amendment because the need for reconstruction and widening of Payne Street was initially identified and reported to Council in 2016. Delays in delivery, sorry, I'll move my mouse so I can be heard better. Delays in delivery of the project has occurred due to the lengthy statutory, native and vegetation clearance approval process with state agencies. However, the main point is Payne Street does not currently meet the minimum standards for a local distributor road, and the existing condition is poor with cracking and seal. This is directly from the report, from the summary. Cracking and seal pavement, deformations and soft shoulders, and is in urgent need of reconstruction. Further deterioration of the road will continue to occur, exacerbating the increase in cost should we delay any further in the works, these works become necessary. Council is, so that's what we're recommended to by the summary. Now, I again say about the number of road users using this and delivery drivers, it will make it easier for passing traffic. So it is a distributor road used a lot, and it will increase once the road condition is better, and I don't see a problem with that. So I urge Council to vote against this motion, this amendment to the motion.
Thank you. Is there a speaker for the amendment? Speaker against the Deputy President?
Mr. President, can I just ask, start with a question?
Yes.
What is the current status of the road? Is it a local distributor road? Distributor road?
Yes.
Yeah. So widening the road won't affect the status or vehicles which can already travel along the road. Yes. Yeah. No, it won't. No. So
I'll just probably get that. We'll just officially take that question. The Director of Infrastructure and Development.
No, it won't.
Right.
It won't affect it at all.
yeah. All right. That's fine. Just speaking against the amendment, more just off a process component, a process angle. If the amendment was to pass, you'd end up with a motion that says we accept the tender, we're going to put the money in, and then a third point that says, but hold on, don't accept the tender until we've had another report come back to council to potentially adjust the scope of the project. And then my understanding is we can't just go back and start negotiating with a tender about the scope of the project. So we either accept the tender or we don't accept the tender and go back and look at the scope of the project. I don't think that the motion with this amendment would be actionable.
Is there a speaker for the amendment? Speaker against? Councillor Noonan, exercising your right as the seconder, I suppose? Yep. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think it's important to second amendments so that we can have the debate. I think that's an important thing. However, in this instance, I am against the amendment because of the risk that it places for the Shire. In the agenda under the risk implications, the risk number 2 under infrastructure and systems utilities, there's a high risk. The consequences are major. The current roadway is narrow and has trees in close proximity to the existing sealed pavement, creating potential hazards for errant vehicles as trees are not frangible. Contemporary design for the roadway mitigates this hazard, making the roadway wider, removing trees within 7 metres of the centre line of the road to provide adequate clear zone. The fear that I have is that if we were to go back to the successful tender and say, we want you to fix the road but just not widen it, and if we were to leave those trees there, and if we do have an accident, the liability that the council would be in, not just the financial liability, but I would hate to be responsible for any decision that led to or that contributed to someone suffering and a family or families suffering the consequences of a serious accident on that road. So I am in favour of widening the road, making it as safe as possible. I'm conscious, and I totally agree with Councillor Clues, that it does raise the risk of that road becoming a rat run in Buonup for trucks to avoid the majority of the Buonup town site. And that's more an issue for residents along the road. But I think that the motion as written by the officers is probably I think it's the better way to go, and so I won't be supporting the amendment.
Are there any other speakers for or against the motion? The amendment? Councillor Clues, would you like to close?
Thank you. Yeah, I guess I'll just a couple of replies. I guess the concerns of it being labelled and locked in as a distributor road, I think they're null. Like I said, I think that's easily changeable to make it a local road. The concerns about the delay, we can sign this tonight. They're not going to run out and start work next week. It's going to be a while. These things happen. It's taking us a long time to get anything as far as works go at the moment. And I think that this little intervention wouldn't blow any time at all, to be honest. And frankly, if it's for a good outcome, then it's something people are generally willing to wait for. Yeah, accepting the tender as it is, yeah, I guess that's probably a bit of a concern, but I don't think it's anything that can't be worked around. And quite frankly, if there's competing, if there's competing resolutions out of one decision, then just all that happens is nothing until it's resolved. So that's not really a concern either, because it just means that we hold off, we have a talk about it, we sit down, we get this report, we make a decision, and we move on. I don't think that's that big a concern either. The level of safety provided, now I think what I'm talking about doing is trying to not cause more traffic down that road, which would increase or decrease in fact the level of safety and increase the level of potential incidents. Not only that, I mean, how far do we go on making roads so that they're as safe as is humanly possible? I mean, we're not going to grade separate every road in the Shire. That's the only thing you could really do to actually make it a for us to have an actual effect on the level of safety on the roads, you grade separate, or you do the best you can with what you got. So I think we just do the best with what we got, personally. Anyway, so yeah, I'm probably on my own on this one, but look, I'd hate to see that road turn into something that the people that have to live on it don't want. So if I'm by myself, I'm by myself. But yeah, we'll move on.
Thank you, councillor. I'll put that amendment to the vote. Those in favour? And those against? And that's lost 6-1. We now return to the substantive motion. Councillor Clues, did you wish to debate the item?
Pardon me, thank you, sorry. Yeah, I guess, obviously, for reasons of my attempted amendment, I'll vote against it, because I would have liked to have seen it come back with, I think there was a better outcome available to us that we've probably missed out on.
Thank you, councillor. Is there any other speakers for or against the item? Councillor Mogg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through the chair, can I ask the director my question?
Yes.
Thank you. With regards to clearing of vegetation on roadsides, which in our state has some of the best native vegetation, where does the offset for that go?
This one will go to our Kemerton site.
Thank you.
Any further? Right. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Clues, a question?
Sorry, question, if I may. Thank you, Councillor Mogg, for raising that one. Is that something that is dictated to us? We have no input nor ability to move that at all, as far as the rehab sites go?
In terms of moving it, I'm not sure, but the Chief Executive Officer might be able to provide the answer.
Through you, Chair, I'll start the first part of that question and then I'll ask the Director to finish it. Native clearing permit applications are required to be publicly advertised. We have some within our district right now. As part of that public advertising process, the Shire has the ability, like everyone else, to make a comment about where they would like to see offsets. And those comments are taken by the department as part of the submission process. And we do regularly, and we're continuing to seek offsets within the Shire of Capel. So that's a normal process that occurs as part of the public advertising for native clearing permits. I'll ask the Director to finish the second part.
The Director of Infrastructure and Development.
I don't have a whole lot further to add to that, but we are looking for offset planting sites within the Shire currently. At the moment, there's been nothing approved outside, to my knowledge, outside the Kemerton site that we can use and recommend as an alternative.
Good. Are there any other speakers? I suppose I'll just throw in my 2 cents. Yeah, I do appreciate the sentiments of Councillor Clues regarding the road upgrade, but look, being fully aware of that condition, the condition of that road and how much it actually already is used, I do believe that the upgrade is necessary. In terms of the safety issues in that area, I think our largest issue is around the sort of fishhook intersection that it has at Bournemouth West Road, and that's probably where I'd like to see some of the safety and mitigation strategies focused rather than on the actual width of the road. But that's something we can have a look at and do a study in following completion of the road upgrade, if the motion is adopted tonight. So I commend the motion. Councillor Dillon, is the move we'd like to close? Nothing further? All right, I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? And that's carried 6-1. We now move to item 14.3, the Jalora Bushfire Brigade facility. There's a recommendation there. Is there a mover for that? Councillor Noonan. Seconder, Councillor Clues. Councillor Noonan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to move the officer's recommendation and move that with option A, that, with option A. So the officer's recommendation as written.
Councillor Clues?
Question, if I may.
Yes.
Can I just confirm option A is plan A as it always was and as it always has been?
Yes.
Thank you. I couldn't find a whisper to argue against this if I tried. This is brilliant. Glad to see it's come back and glad to see we're reaffirming it.
Are there any speakers against the motion? Speakers for? Councillor Terentry?
Yes, I urge everyone to vote for this. It's been a long time coming. It's been on the council books for a while. I also don't think there's any reason to delay because according to the Walga Info Cost Index, nothing's getting cheaper. We should not delay this the building of this new facility, and because if we do, there will be a backlog of capital works. There's also increases in wages, up by 28%, the resource costs have gone up by 28%, and also there's been a 29% increase in machinery as well. So I think there's no reason to delay this. And it's also going to be a utilised resource of the Bushfire Brigade, now that they'll have a training room and they'll have separate areas for women and for men in their rooms. I've looked at the plans; they look great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any other speakers for or against? Councillor Dillon?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, I concur with a lot of what's already been said. This is going to be a fantastic project. I know there's a lot of very excited volunteer firefighters around the district. And that's probably something that's worth pointing out too. It's not only going to be an asset for our local volunteer fireys, but possibly from further afield because of the training opportunities and that sort of thing. So I'll put it that all councillors get behind this. There's a lot of people out there probably crossing fingers and toes and everything, and I think it's a lay down misère. Let's get behind it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other speakers? I suppose I'll just say, no, I'm definitely in favour of the recommendation here tonight. I'm pretty happy to see the negotiation that's happened between the Shire and the funding agency DFES. I'd also just like to point out the large amount of work that's been put in by the captain of the Jalora Brigade in seeing this facility through. Certainly great. It's certainly going to be a wonder of a facility for our brigades, and I think it's already been called the Jalora Bushfire Centre of Excellence. And it certainly will, but it's certainly a project that we need. I mean, the current shed's just beyond its date. I mean, providing an inch of clearance on both sides of the vehicle, and then when the vehicles are sitting in the shed, the fumes are going directly into the kitchenette area, which is a closed space, so it's not exactly ideal. This is a long overdue upgrade to bring the facility up to more modern and contemporary standards, so wholeheartedly support it. No further speakers? Councillor Noonan, do you wish to close?
Thank you, Mr. President. Very pleased to see the level of support from the comments from fellow councillors, and very happy to see this motion come to the council. So, thank you.
I'll put that one to the vote. Those in favour? And that's carried unanimous. Item 14.4, the tender 2203, cleaning of the public toilets. Is there a mover for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Terentry. Is there a seconder? Councillor Mogg. Councillor Terentry.
I I move this motion as read. It's great. It's value for money. We have 17 public toilet blocks that need cleaning, and the contractor is good. They've got a previous history with the Shire. I'm very happy with. I think we discussed it was $20. It's really good value for money. I can't remember what we discussed, but yes, I hope that all councillors support this motion.
Councillor Mogg, are there any speakers against the item? Speakers for? Nothing further. Councillor Terrantroy, anything further? I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? And that's carried unanimous. Okay, we're now moving to section 15, community and corporate reports. Item 15.1, the financial statements for the 31st of May 2022. Is there a mover for those? The Deputy President. Seconder, Councillor Terrantroy. The Deputy President.
No, I have nothing much to add. I'll just express my joy. The Director has left some little details in there about how calculated budget deficit balance, following on from my questions at last Ordinary Council meeting, and the way that that's presented in the item, so I very much appreciate that.
Councillor Terrantroy. Any discussion around the table? Anything to add to that? Then I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? And that's carried unanimous. Item 15.2, the accounts paid during the month of May 2022. Is there a mover for that? Councillor Dillon. Seconder, Councillor Mogg. Councillor Dillon.
Just as read, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mogg. Any questions or comments from the table? No. Councillor Dillon, anything further? I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? That's carried unanimous. Okay. There is no new business of an urgent nature. Now to item 17, public question time. Are there any further public questions? Mr. Norton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your comments in relation to buoyant up sale yards, because the next question is about buoyant up sale yards, and your answer to some of my earlier questions at other meetings is, and I hope there's still an appetite around the room to look at relocating buoyant up sale yards. Obviously, Walser will be very keen to stop there for as long as they can, and probably extend your 10-year lease if we're gullible enough to let them. And some of your comments earlier on, you had some money allocated from the South West Development Commission to start a process to start to look for a relocation site for those yards, bearing in mind that under the national standards and guidelines for sale yards, which our Minister agreed to back in October 2020, sale yards should not be located in gazetted town sites. So obviously the quicker we move them, which is probably not what Walser wants, that the better off we're all going to be legally. So is there still an appetite within the council to start to look for a relocation site? And the biggest thing in any of this stuff, and haven't been involved with them for some time, is to get a patch of land where you can put it and get it rezoned for an obnoxious industry, is what sale yards come under. So is that still the plan? Your earlier answer was that 2nd of July, you'll start the process. Is it now the 2nd of September, or is it going to get put back on the never, like it has been done for the last 10 or 15 years in relation to buoyant up sale yards? We've got to grab a bit of dirt now, whether the Shire does it or whether industry does it. Otherwise, 6 or 7 years down the track, we'll be having the same discussion again. And it's just not going to go on forever. We've got to appreciate that. Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks for the question, Mr. Norton. The relocation of the sale yards remains one of our key advocacy priorities for the Shire of Capel. which is why in the new lease agreement that we've proposed to Walsall, the 10-year extension is by mutual agreement, so the Shire must also agree to extend that. It is obviously our desire to have those yards relocated out of the Boynup town site, considering it is constraining up to about 450 potential residential lots. In regards to the relocation study, unfortunately we were not successful in achieving any grant funding from the South West Development Commission. However, there is in the draft annual budget, there is a proposal to include that funding funded by the Shire itself, so that we are not reliable on anyone, and we will continue with that work regardless of any other external funding sources, with the intention to find a site to relocate those yards and look at the opportunities constraints while also working with industry, including the current leaseholder, but also those others. That's all. Any other questions? Nothing further? All right, well, we'll move on to motions without notice. Is there anything from the table? No. No. Motions for consideration at the next ordinary meeting of the council? Nothing. There are no items for consideration behind closed doors. There being no further business on the agenda, I will declare the meeting closed at 7:08. Thank you very much for your attendance tonight. Enjoy the rest of your evening.